everybody, Jordan here, and today we have a new Minecraft video. Today we're going to be showcasing a Delta Airlines livery evolution on the Boeing 757-200. I'm really excited to show this off as I've never even built some of these before, so this is really cool. Anyways, without further ado, let's get started. We start with the first livery right here, which is the dark nose widget that was in operation from 1982 until 1997. Now, this aircraft was the workhorse of the Delta fleet traditionally and was used to replace the 727s. And yeah, this is also the same airplane that's at the Delta Flight Museum in Atlanta that's on display. You can check it out right now. Anyways, at the nose of the aircraft, we have a dark black visor, and then it fades into a dark blue that also has a widget. We have a bare metal underbelly, the nose gear of the 757, and then it kind of transitions over with a little bit of a red stripe and the Delta logo as well. We have the Pratt & Whitney PW2000 engines, as well as the main landing gear of the aircraft. Moving onwards, we also have it written right here. It says Boeing 757, the aircraft registration, and then we also have the American flag, as well as Delta written and the ship number up on top of the aircraft. Now, as you can see, this is a really interesting livery. I think it's super cool. Delta, unfortunately, does not really believe in retrojets, so they are not implementing this in service as they believe in brand consistency. But yeah, I think it's a really cool livery. On the other side of the aircraft, we have the forward cargo bay. We also have an aft cargo bay as well right here. And an interesting thing about the 757 is that the aft fuselage is slightly different and bigger than the forward fuselage, as marked by this block right there. As you can see, that's bigger and it's there, and it's not right here. So Boeing found that it was a little bit more aerodynamic and more easier and efficient to have the rear of the fuselage a little bit bigger than the forward of it. So I think you can kind of see it in the proportions here. It kind of looks a little bit bigger in the back. But yes, anyways, we can take a tour of the interior of this aircraft. As you can see on board, we have the forward galley. And remember, this is an aircraft that was introduced, in the 1980s and early 1990s. So this is Delta's old cabin, right? So here's a first class, and it has kind of a reddish, oranges, kind of alternating seat pattern. And then we just have regular economy throughout the rest of the aircraft. Now, remember, again, this is during an era where extra legroom economy didn't really exist yet. So it really was just first and then regular economy, because again, economy seats hadn't really kind of shrunk down to the level they are now. So this was kind of the cabin that they ended up going with for that. Anyways, we have a forward galley. This is what the flight deck looks like. Again, 757 was a pretty modern aircraft for the time. It had a completely redesigned nose from the 737, 727, and 707 that it was derived from, as well as a fully modern cockpit with CRT screens initially and whatnot. So this is where the first officer sits, the captain. We have an overhead panel. We have the yokes and whatnot. So yeah, pretty interesting. But that's the Delta Dark Nose widget that was in service for about 15 years. And then we move on to the Ron Allen livery. Now this livery right here. Now this was a very short-lived livery, and unfortunately it was during kind of a, stressful time for Delta, if that's the right word for it, as the airline started to struggle a little bit. Now, this livery was only in service for about 3 years officially, from 1997 until 2000. Now, I actually really like this livery. It's actually kind of cool. It's my sleeper pick, really. It's a really good modernization of this livery, if that makes sense. As you can see them, side by side, it's like they took this livery and just cleaned it up a little bit and kind of made it a little bit more modern for the 1990s and early 2000s. So, as you can see, instead of a black nose, it kind of alternates and fades with a little bit of a red stripe and a blue nose into the radome. It says Delta Airlines. It has the widget right there, and it still keeps its underbelly metal right there. So that's nice. Anyways, here's the Pratt & Whitney PW2000 engines again, and the Ron Allen livery. And here's the empennage of the aircraft. It says Delta. It has elements of a little bit of a triangle kind of taping off at the top of the tail. We have the American flag, the registration, and here's how it looks on the other side of the aircraft. So again, nothing too crazy, but again, I really like this livery, but unfortunately it was during kind of a stressful time for Delta. They were kind of struggling a little bit, and we should have painted that door. Oopsies. But yeah. Anyways, we can take a tour of the interior, and as you can see, they kind of made it all blue. So it's now an all blue cloth or leather design, as they kind of got rid of the alternating red to be a little bit more modernized for the turn of the century and whatnot. Yeah. Really nice, really nice. Not really for the company's financials. They were kind of struggling a little bit, but, I liked this livery. I thought this was a really cool livery. It's a shame that they don't have any retros in this livery specifically. But anyways, we can move onwards to the Colors in Motion livery, or otherwise known as Wavy Gravy or Delta Flot, because this is a very similar tail to Aeroflot. Now, Again, this is a livery during a very difficult time for Delta, and as you probably have seen in some pictures of Atlanta, back in the day, you'll see lots of Delta jets sporting all three of these liveries next to each other, because again, this was such a short-lived livery that a lot of aircraft just skipped it entirely, and they went straight from widget to colors in motion. So yeah, kind of goes to tell how the conditions were at the time. This was not very pretty. But anyways, they got rid of airlines written right there. It just says Delta in lowercase. It has the widget. They did keep the bare metal underbelly, and now they had a little bit of a more simplified PW2000 engine design right here. Again, towards the tail, we have the registration and the American flag, as well as the tail. Now, I tried my best with this one, but it's a really complex tail with a bunch of kind of like, it's like cloth or whatever, like waving through and all of that. Again, doesn't really scream Delta to me, but again, I remember as a little kid seeing these airplanes at the airport and saying like, oh, that's a Delta jet. But just a really interesting livery design. Doesn't really scream Delta when you see it. But again, this was a difficult time and whatnot for Delta, but they're able to overcome it and become the powerhouse that they are now. But again, here's how it looks. Again, the cabin is effectively the exact same as the Ron Allen one. It's kind of all blue. They're starting to kind of clean things up and modernize the cabins a little bit, but yeah, just kind of an all blue cabin right here for this aircraft. So yeah, if I have to say out of all of them, which is the favorite that I've built in Minecraft, it's this one. I really like how this looks. As much as I love the widget livery in real life, I really love this one right here. But anyways, we can conclude with current day Delta with the onward and upwards livery. And oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, this was in service from 2000 until 2007. This is unfortunately also when Delta went through bankruptcy, and this is also when they merged with Northwest also as they came out of it. So once the merger and they came out of bankruptcy, they rebranded and they came into their current livery, which is the onward and upward livery, their current livery, which is also very, very nice. Now around 2015, they modernized it and they added the Delta underbelly, but yeah, relatively a simple livery, but it's really nice and classy. At the nose of the aircraft, as you can see, they now have the One World logo. We also have some little stickers for this. It says Delta right here in all capital letters. It has a widget, and it has a dark blue underbelly, as well as the Pratt & Whitney PW2000 engines in all blue. As we continue onwards, this aircraft is equipped with winglets, and technically there were some colors in motion 757s with winglets, but they weren't really that common, so we kept them off. But anyways, here's the registration. Oh boy, didn't move. Registration, American flag, and here's the Delta widget on the tail. I think this looks really great. They did a good job with this being at two-toned. Here's the auxiliary power unit and the rest of the aircraft, and here's the rear cargo bay, and on the underbelly, again, here's says Delta with a Delta widget, so DELTA, and here's the right side of the aircraft. Now, this is the first time we actually start changing up the cabin again. As you can see, it's the modern cabin. So we have the Delta Business Class, or Delta First, whatever you would like to call it. We have a little divider, and then we have Comfort Plus, the extra legroom seating, and then we just have some regular economy throughout the rest of the cabin. Now, interestingly enough, Delta is actually in the middle of a little bit of a, I don't want to say a rebrand, but they're retrofitting their cabins with new colors and new designs. It's fine. I don't hate it, but it's very Air France-esque in my opinion. It doesn't really look like a Delta thing to me. I really think that this fits Delta quite well, but they are in the effort of reupholstering and modernizing some of their airplanes, especially the 757s, with new sky interior cabins. They're having new seats, new seat colors, and whatnot. So be on the lookout for that. If you're ever flying on one of these airplanes, you might get lucky and get on a newly retrofitted one. But as you can see, this has a SATCOM antenna, as Delta is now rolling out free internet for their Delta passengers and whatnot. And this is a very good livery. This is a very good livery that represents Delta right now. They're very successful. They figured out a winning formula. They're sticking to it. And it's really good to see them because they were struggling they were struggling very much so in the early 2000s, especially after 9/11, the 08 financial crisis, Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and all of that. And they came out of it flawlessly. They came out as a powerhouse. They run a great on-time operation and whatnot and everything else. So yeah, that's great to see. But anyways, that's kind of all I have for today's video. Technically, I could have shown a SkyTeam livery as well as a Song 757. Maybe we'll do that in another video. That could be another extended part where we talk about some other kind of Delta liveries or interesting liveries of the 757. But that's just about all I have for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you'd like to see previews of my future videos and screenshots of what I'm working on or talk with other individuals like myself who are interested in Minecraft, Minecraft, gaming, and aviation, don't be afraid to check out our Discord server. The link is in the description. It was also in the comment section. So yeah, go ahead and give it a check. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I'm Jordan, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching.